So GMKtec reached out to see if I want to check out one of their mini PCs, but I didn't know that that meant a few of their mini PCs. I mean, some of them are very interesting. For example, this tiny one on the box here, it says 12 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of SSD. 12 gigs of RAM! What is that all about? And did you know that this one here is actually an AI PC? What is an AI PC? Well, I'm glad you asked, because we're going to check them out. As always, tear them down and benchmark them and all sorts of things. So if you haven't heard about these before, well, now you're gonna.
Looking for a cheap way to license your Windows? Check out WhoKeys through the links in the video description. Make sure to use the code TN20 to get a 30% off. Paste the license to the activation settings and you're all done. This license is for Windows 10, but you can upgrade it to Windows 11 for free. They also offer Microsoft Office 19 license. Use the same code TN20 to get a 30% off. Check out whokeys.com in the video description below.
Basically, what's in the box is a mini PC. What is this model here again? K7. I'm gonna leave everything in the description below if you want to check them out. It's an i5 in there, maybe 1360p, we'll see in a minute. And then underneath what you have is a power brick. And then you also have the VESA adapter as well as a HDMI cable. Now, I'm curious, what is this fourth one? So this model is G5. So this one was G3. Bigger number, but actually smaller box. Where's the mini PC? Oh my word. Look at that. Look at the size comparison. I mean, this is a mini PC. What is it? This one then? This is a nano PC. Oh my word, I can't wait to open that one up. Intel inside and a power brick, which is a USB-C power brick actually. Look at that, 36 watts. So the same power delivery, 12 volts, 3 amperes, but USB-C. I'm curious if we can actually turn this small one on with this power brick. So this is the SharGeek 170, and this can deliver up to 140 watts power delivery. Okay, output, it's already taking like 1 point something watts out. Okay, I want to plug in the HDMI to actually see what is going on in there as well. 2 USB type A's in the front. On the right side, we have a micro SD card slot and a Kensington lock. On the left side, nothing. And on the back, we have 2 HDMI ports, 1 LAN port, another USB port, USB Type-C port for the power delivery, and then headphone jack and mic combo. So we'll put these in. And do you know what? We'll plug in the LAN as well. Look, I can see that it's already getting something. Oh, it's already turning on. Goodness me, I must have pressed the power button. Yeah, look at that, 18 watts. So this tiny mini PC can actually be powered by the power bank. This is checking for updates and so on. While it's doing that, let's test and look at these different PCs, what we can see here. Let's do all of the I/O, all of the PCs together. So the smaller one, G3, here has only 2 USB type A ports in the front. Then the AI model, which is the K9 and K7. So the K9, K7, they have the same front panel I/O. We've got the green button, mic combo jack, USB Type-C, and 2 Type A's. Moving to the sides, all of them have exactly the same sides, nothing there, and exactly the same on the other one as well. So just intake ventilation from the sides. The back is very similar with both of the K9 and K7. 2 USB Type A's, 1 display port, 1 HDMI port, and 2 LAN ports. One of them 1 gig, one of them 2.5 gig, if I'm not mistaken. And then on the G3, we have HDMI, 2 Type A's, 1 LAN port, another HDMI port, and mic combo jack, as well as a Kensington lock, which is also in the back of both of them. Now, let's turn these ones on as well, so we can actually see how powerful they are. And then we'll do the i5 first and leave the AI PC till last. As you can see, we have to sign into our Microsoft account, which is really annoying. So many options and ads and things you have to skip when you're setting up Windows. Okay, while it's checking for updates and sets things ready, let's move on to this mini PC here now. I've already set this up and done some of the updates, so let's take a look at what are our specs. Okay. So this is the i5 13500H, which is 12 cores and 16 threads. So there we go, our 13500H. It actually has 4 performance cores and 8 efficiency cores. Performance cores have multi-threading and efficiency cores don't. Max turbo power up to 95 watts. Okay, RAM is DDR5, 4800 megahertz, 2 out of 2 DIMMs, so looks like 2 DIMM sticks, and both of them 16 gigs, so 32 in total. We've got our SSD, which is an AirDisk 1 terabyte SSD, Wi-Fi 6, and Intel Xe graphics that's plugged into there. When using the device, you instantly feel it's very, very snappy actually. Right now we've peaked 59 degrees at 22 watts. So let's give this a go and see what happens. Pico's going 3.3 gigahertz and E-core's 2.6, and what we're pushing 45 watts. Our PL1, PL2 are 40 and 45 watts. 71 degrees, that's not necessarily loads. 72 degrees. I mean, the cooling is pretty all right, but it's only pushing 45 watts, so that's not like anything massive. It is quite warm in this room. 27.9 degrees right now. Summer has arrived in England. 82 degrees. Whew, it's quite warm in here. 10,448. So that is the same performance as Ryzen 5600X, which is a 6-core CPU from AMD, but pulls a bit more power than this one here. But I'm guessing you can up the power limits a little bit more. Let's see what happens if we install the XDU from Intel and see if we can up the power limits. Let's see what's the maximum there is and how much performance is still in stock on this one. Looks like 45 watts it handles very easily, but we've got to restart, so let's go. Okay, here we are now, restarted the 13500H, and let's just see if our, turbo power is unlimited and the time window is unlimited as well. Let's see what happens. What's the BIOS gonna do now? Okay, as you can see, PL1 and 2 power limits are absolutely max. So what's it pushing through now? 71 watts? 67 watts? As you can see, 3 gigahertz on E cores and 3.8, up to 3.8 on the P cores. 60 degrees now, but looks like it is thermal throttling. Now it's 52 watts, so not much more than 45 watts, but I don't know why is it thermal throttling if the core temperatures aren't that bad actually. 89 should not be thermal throttling this CPU yet. Okay, we got 12,588, which takes us to roughly about the M1 Max performance, which is not bad, or the Intel 12500 desktop variant CPUs. So up to 71 watts boost, which is pretty good. Let's check how fast is the integrated or the SSD that's inside this PC. So it hasn't completed the full test yet, but so far we're 2.5 gigabytes per second read and 1.8 gigabytes per second write, which is very, very slow. So this is a Gen 3 NVMe inside. So they've cheaped out a little bit on the NVMe, even though the NVMe slot there does support Gen 4, because I know that the 13500H does support Gen 4. So this PC we can start pulling apart now. While we set the AI PC up, let's take a look what's inside this PC. So as you can see, there's already a little hook in there. If you want to just hook it onto the wall or something like that with through screws, you can do that over there. Seems like there is no screws located here, but I bet they are underneath there. No, they are not. Oh, that is interesting. So the PC actually comes off from the top. So the top panel just peels off like that. Will the bottom do the same thing then? No, the bottom seems solid on. Oh, we have a little fan on the top here as well that sucks air in from absolutely... Oh, actually there is a little bit. Sorry, my bad. That is interesting. Can you see this channeling here from both sides? It comes from this tiny grill that's on this side of the device. 4 screws on each corner. Okay, you have to pop this top off as well. There is a little fan which I'll take off on the side here. GMKtec, so they've made the fan themselves. And what we can see here is the ADATA RAM, 16 plus 16 gigabytes. We have another fan header on that side. We have another spare M.2 slot in there. Both of them are Gen 4 NVMe's, but this SSD here, It's rather warm actually. Is PCIe Gen 3 JBL PCIe Gen 3 X4 1 terabytes. JBL, didn't know JBL did SSDs. And then underneath it we have the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi card. There's no reason to really take them off. And then on the other side is the actual cooling, but since the cooling is okay for the 45 watts, you don't really need to take it off. Okay, now we've got the AI PC plugged in as well. Let's take a look at the specs. It's Ultra 5 125H CPU, 14 cores, 18 threads, which is a bit more now. 29 degrees in this room. 14 cores, 18 threads, 32 gigs of RAM, and it's faster than the previous one, 5600 megahertz rather than 48. The SSD is Mass Zone Semi, never heard of that one either. We have our Xe graphics inside the AI PC, as well as the NPU or Intel AI Boost, which I don't know much what it can do because it can't do much right now. Look at that. The AI PC has a fast SSD inside. 7,000 megabytes per second. That's a little better. The one thing I noticed when setting up this PC, when the PC goes to idle, the fans actually go to idle as well. So the fan curves are linked to whether the PC is, you know, awake or asleep. But when it is asleep, it goes very, very hot. So whenever you turn the PC on, the first thing is the fans kick in and start to cool it down because it's very hot, like hot to the touch. So hot. Now, I don't know how good this is for the components. They should be cooled down all the time. I'm hoping that the firmware fix or BIOS fix would come out for this one. Then it will be sorted. And now looking at the write speeds as well, we're getting about 6,600 megabytes per second. So that is impressive SSD speed on this AI mini PC from GMKtec. Okay, let's take a look at this guy now. P cores 3.2 to 3. Look at that. That's quite a big of a difference between the P cores. 45 watts again, that's the limit, apparently, what the CPU package pulls. Look, 2 P cores are going 3.4 gigahertz and 2 of them are going 2.9. That's like 400, 500 megahertz difference between 2 P cores. The temperatures were very hot as well. 90 degrees with 45 watts power. That's insane. And 12,793, so almost 13,000, will get it better than the M1 Max, the i5 12500. So 12,800 points. That's like Ryzen 7 Pro 4750G or almost 5700G kind of territory, which is very good, like 8 P cores on desktop performance. Not bad at all, but not good enough for me. I want to see, is XDU already installed here? Apparently you can't install XDU on the Intel Core Ultra. As you can see, does not work. So that's what it's going to be, 45 watt power limit on this one. It's still more powerful than the 13500H, but that's about it. Let's take a look what's inside that PC. Interestingly, even though we had a 120 watt power brick, we still didn't use like even half of it pretty much. So there's loads of potential how much power this can push through. So looking at the AI PC now, the same top should come off like that. And then 4 screws around, so it's exactly the same chassis what we saw on the previous one. Okay, there we go. Little prying, and then this comes off. This is the same design as we had on the previous PC. Looks like internals are exactly the same as well, except this says G3X4 as well, 1 terabyte one. So this is not Gen 3. Honestly, they've made a mistake there. They gave me a better SSD in here or something, but this is not a Gen 3 SSD because you can't get them speeds with a Gen 3. So we have DDR5 5600 from Crucial. This is the JDAC spec. Let's take the RAM off so you can easily upgrade the RAM like on the previous one. Add another M.2 SSD. That's Gen 4 as well. You can see the M whatever SSD it was, something. So this is Mason Semi MC7000 NVMe, PCIe Gen 4 X4 it shows underneath, and a cheap little heatsink on the top that's just put in with these rubbers. I don't know what this sticker is, it's a random sticker. There is your Wi-Fi antenna. Okay, both the screws seem exactly the same height and length. Let's take a look underneath. So the chassis is very plasticky and bendy, so you can easily pull this out, and here we can see the heatsink underneath. I'm assuming it's exactly the same cooler on both of them. It is actually quite a deep fan, so this is like 10 millimeters at least thick here. Usually it's a little bit kind of skinnier, while it's actually 12. So we've got two heat pipes going onto the RAM. Interestingly, they've used just a standard kind of a heat sink, but as you can see, this screw here, there's nowhere to screw that one in. There's just no screw hole. The heat pipes are going underneath from there. So now you should be able to just peel this off just like that. And there we go. We can see two heat pipes going over this. So interestingly, the actual CPU in there, or SoC, is diagonally rectangular like that. So it's like long ways that way. But interestingly, it makes only contact kind of in the middle of the chip there, even though it's longer. So I'm wondering if the heat pipes would have been better if they were like the other way, so you'd get better heat transfers over. But the 45 watts is low power anyway, that it's not that big of a deal even with this type of cooling and this type of fan. So I don't think you need to like read thermal pasty or anything like that, because you can't change the thermal limits anyway. It seems fine even at stock settings. Okay, let's put the SSDs back together. Okay, one thing I do find interesting is this fan and the airflow from here, because this fan is upside down, which means it pulls air from the top and pushes it down inside the chassis, which would probably like try to push it out from the sides because there's nowhere else to go. But this is kind of a weird positioning, because I think it would be much better if the fan was the other way and it's trying to take the hot air from inside the system that naturally kind of goes upwards anyway and tries to push it out from the system. Means that it sucks in the cold air from the bottom and tries to push it out. So it's kind of like a swimming against the stream way of having the fan on there, which is a little bit confusing for me. And that's the AI Mini PC. So now we've got this tiny mini PC, which is a GMKtec Nookbox G3. So what are the specs here? We've got the N100. So this is an Alder Lake CPU as well. So Intel 7 and launched Q1 2023. So it's quite a latest CPU. TDP 6 watts. Well, we'll take a look if it is 6 watts, because the actual power, look, it's pushing 7 watts there, but it's got a 36 watt power brick. So I guess, you know, other devices plugged in as well there, but it is 100% here utilized. So it's got 4 cores and 4 threads. Base speed is 0.8. It can go up to 3.4 gigahertz. Okay. We've got 16 gigabytes of DDR4. 3200 megahertz, 1 out of 2 sticks, so it looks like maybe there is only 1 stick of 36 in there. Lexar NM6A1 1 terabyte SSD. Okay, since this is such an interesting SSD in there, I want to find out how good is it. I'm gonna do one test, NVMe go. SSD 100% there, as you can see. Let's have a look at our read speeds. How fast is it? Okay, so it's a Gen 3 SSD. Oh yeah, because you can see here on ARC, the N100 has only PCIe Gen 3 as the maximum PCIe revision and only 9 lanes of it. So yeah, I'll stop it. Wi-Fi 6 still, but Intel graphics. But let's take a look. How fast is this? I mean, why does it still go to 86 degrees if it only pulls 10 watts? Like, I should be able to cool that down with a potato. Whoa, look at that boosting. 12 watts thermal throttling. We have to pull it down. Oh my word. I didn't press go again, did I? Oh no. Yeah, stop. Why is it so hot? What type of cooling is on that? That should easily cool down 13 watts. 9 watts, why is it thermal throttling? So as you can see, PL2 is 15 watts and PL1 is a 10 watt limits. Oh my word, can I even be bothered waiting till the end? Phew, that takes a long time. So while the green Mini PC is completing the 9-watt Cinebench R23, let's take a look at the minuscule PC. So I'm curious what specs these even are. This is Intel N97. It's also 4 cores and 4 threads. Base speed, interestingly, was higher than on the previous one. But it's right, look, it's got 12 gigs of RAM. It's 4800 megahertz. Slots used 4 out of 4, so looks like it might be soldered onto the thing, because I don't think there is a SODIMM slot in there, especially at 12 gigabytes. The SSD is HS SSD E100 N42, 512 gigabytes. We've got our Gigabyte Ethernet controller and Intel UHD graphics. Okay, I don't know what's going on with this one here, but this is still going at 9 watts and it's absolutely flying away in terms of the fan speed. I'm not sure what's happening with that PC. I don't know, why is this not turning on anymore? But as you can see, we did quite a bit of thermal throttling, 95 degrees. All the cores thermal throttled at 13 watts. So the cooling, even though being that massive, it must be a dinky cooler in there. We're gonna have to look at that one. You might want to do even thermal paste application again. We're gonna take a look at that because it didn't even boost 15 watts, which it should at this, and it shouldn't go 93 degrees. I know there's 29.2 degrees in this house, but 2,733 points. That is no score to be boasting about. Okay, as soon as you press the power button, it goes to sleep because it goes to like 1.5 watts, okay? And then I'm gonna press to turn it on. It goes 12.9 watts. Oh, there we go. 25 watts. We're pulling from there. Let's see if it's any different if I plug in the actual DC power and not the power brick. 12 watts TDP, as you can see, a little bit higher. It can have DDR4 and DDR5. And is it Alder Lake? Yes, Alder Lake, and launched Q1 23. So very interesting. 3.6 gigahertz. Looks like this might be even slightly better than the bigger version in there. 105 operating temperature. I don't think this has any, I don't know, PCIe Gen 3 9 lanes as well, so very, very similar. So if you're looking at the N97 and N100, interestingly, the N97 costs a bit more. Same amount of threads. The N97 goes higher boost clocks, higher wattages, embedded option. RAM is the same. The graphics runs faster. So interestingly, this tiny one could be even better. So let's take a look then. What is this hardware info 64 is gonna tell us? So while we're here, this guy, you pull the lid on, off from the top, and here you can see an M.2 SSD. So this is 2280, so full size, one of them. And then one of them is a small size. This is probably the 40mm one. And there's one RAM stick in here. So there's literally one upgradable RAM, nothing else. This is DDR4. 3200 megatransfers per second, but you can change the SSD. The Wi-Fi card underneath, as you can see, is changeable as well. We've got to check out the cooling underneath this one. So interestingly, it's got like this plastic kind of a side bracket on, is for the Wi-Fi antennas. But if I take it gently off, I should be able to, yep, peel this a little. Come on, there we go. And then off we go. Alrighty. So this is truly small heatsink. A lot of space in such a small compartment. I guess they just wanted to cheap out. The fan is very, very small. Okay, while we're here, the Nookbox G5, the tiny little minuscule one now. Let's take a look. How does that handle Cinebench R23? Okay, fans kicked in and then just slowed down. About 12 watts, something like that. We'll see how it goes. While this is going, I'll try to take the fan off here. Oh yeah, so as you can see, inside there, it's a tiny, tiny fan. So this is maybe 5mm thick fan. This doesn't shift a lot of air at all. The fan should have been this big, so actually full height, pushing it through this here, but obviously it hasn't. They've only also painted it black on this side. The rest of the heatsink is just silver. Well, so let's take a look at this N100 CPU. How small is this chip? And what's the thermal paste application like? Well, not bad, as you can see there, but not ideal either. Obviously, this heatsink is not ideally perfect at all. Someone's actually written on this chip 9, as you can see there. I mean, looking at this silicon, usually when you clean it off like that, it's very nicely polished. But this seems very, very scratched. So I'm not sure if they've already damaged these chips. There's like scratches on this there. Let me see if I can show you this there. Can you see how the silicon has little scratches and scrapes on? Never seen this before, and I'm not sure if this hurts the performance or helps it. Don't think it helps it, but hey, that's what it is. So let's help it out with some thermal paste application. Okay, that should make some good contact. Well, this tiny guy is still boosting about 11 watts, as you can see there. Still going through, or actually 11, almost 12 watts, so it's not bad. Seems like it's doing a better job than this bigger cooling option there. I so want to see the tiny one there, what that's like inside. 2,578 points. I'm sure we got 2,400 something with this PC that I'm trying to put back together. That's not bad at all. Although still I'm thinking, such a tiny mini PC, like even the cell phones sometimes are more powerful. Why would you actually need this? But the cool thing is that these PCs are so small, but they're still serviceable. You can still change your RAM, upgrade it, downgrade it, change it. So Apple's got really no excuse for making their devices, laptops, even Mac Minis unupgradable, because as you can see, you can easily do it. Okay, so this PC you open up with screws underneath. Aha! And look at that! Even this tiny mini PC is upgradable. So this there is the 2242 SSD. This is PCIe Gen 3, but it's still upgradable. Would you look at that? That's absolutely amazing. So here I have the 2230. So as you can see, it is a little bit bigger. It's double-sided on both sides. In order to get this heatsink off here, these standoffs are actually hex. So I think it should be this. Nope. Yep. Okay, so this is just like a frame that keeps hold of this. And now we can see the motherboard. A Wi-Fi card and the actual SSD there, upgradable as well. Okay, will this just literally come off? Ooh, there's two motherboards. Look at that. So what's going on over here? Oh, okay, I see then. So basically these connectors inside here are the PCIe Gen 3 connectors that connect two boards together. The bottom one is where the actual CPU is underneath as well. And as you can see, that's screwed in there as well. I don't think that one comes out because it's screwed in on the other side. I was thinking, what are these ribbon cables on the side there? That's fascinating. So the bottom one has the power and the HDMI connectors, which basically is just power. And then the rest of the connectors, the RJ45 and USB connectors and headphones and the SSD as well as these are on the other side. And even the BIOS battery is on the other side, plugged in. That is absolutely genius engineering. That is fantastic. And then we've got a cooler in there. It looks to be exactly the same cooler what we just took out from the green one. Blows out from this side, just a bit of a smaller heatsink, but exactly the same in there. Okay, let's try to put this one back now. I can't believe they've still made it serviceable, even being this small. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth card you can change. Oh my word. This is absolutely amazing. Okay then, 4 mini PCs. Which one should you get? Well, the AI PC is the very interesting one. The i5 one is alright as well. I guess if you want a little bit cheaper and you don't need AI, that's fantastic PC. The cooling for both of them is actually quite good. The 45 watts, both of them can handle it. Bear in mind, you might want to update the BIOS when getting these. If your fans do a little bit of funny tricks, get the BIOS from GMKtec and then update that one. This green one is a little bit of an interesting one. I know it offers perhaps a little bit of a better I/O and, you know, monitor support. Well, does it really? Not really. It's only lacking one USB port less, but it's actually worse of a performer than this tiny G5. I know the RAM is not upgradable on the G5. It's such a small, cool little mini PC that makes this one look giant. Okay, if you want to check them out, the links are in the description below. Bye-bye. And if you want to reach out to me, you can find Minect in the description below.